in the last 3 years. And as that trend continues, we're seeing tape recede into being just a legacy technology. And where's that spend going? Well, mainly to the cloud. So CTO Edge says that more than 70% of corporate CIOs and CTOs are planning on moving all or part of their backup load to the cloud. And we're seeing that borne out in industry trends in terms of sales. So let's look at briefly the cost and the economics associated with online backup versus tape backup. On the screen here, we've got a case study from a real customer of ours. This was a scenario where a customer of a partner was looking at either purchasing a tape backup array to replace their existing backup technology or moving to the cloud. And the very short version of all this is that the tape backup solution was going to cost the business $6,000 as capital outlay to put in place, whereas the online backup solution was only going to cost them $1,000. So literally 16% of the cost, so 75% or roughly 75% reduction in spend. Now, over a 5-year period, the total cost when you counted in software licensing and maintenance on the hardware, it was going to be $9,000, whereas for online backup, because it's $1,000 a year, it's $5,000. So on both a 1-year analysis or a 5-year analysis, significant savings made for the business. What's really interesting about this is that despite that, there was still a very healthy margin involved for the reseller. So typical margin on hardware in the reseller channel has shrunk down to low single digits. And in this case, the reseller was going to make $500 or thereabouts as commission on the sale of the hardware, whereas with online backup, his margin was 50% or $500 per year every year. So over 5 years, the VAR made $2,500 or 5 times as much. So really what we're trying to convey here is that online backup, not only does it provide a much better service, and we'll talk about that shortly, but it provides it at a fundamentally lower total cost of ownership, and it provides it with much healthier margin for the reseller channel. So talking about the benefits of service, when traditional backup solutions have always been what we call centrally architected hardware backup, which is a mouthful, but really talks about a tape or disk backup array that's usually attached to a file server at the center of a LAN. And there are many problems associated with that type of technology. We're all familiar with them, but just running through some of these perspectives. From a deployment standpoint, that type of hardware-based backup solution has always been a nightmare to deploy, particularly where you've got multiple sites, multiple users, you've got laptops. Online backup is simple software, so whatever central deployment technology you're using, you can use that to deploy the technology to all your PCs in your environment, and you're done. From a coverage standpoint, there's always been problems with central hardware backup. So laptops which move in and out of the corporate network were very often not backed up. In fact, IBM estimates that more than half of IBM's own laptops are not backed up, which is astounding for one of the largest technology companies on earth. Whereas with online backup, you've got coverage of every single device. So no matter whether I'm using a laptop or a workstation or an iPhone or a BlackBerry, I'm always connected to the backup cloud. With traditional backup, you've always had media, which had to be rotated off-site, which posed massive security issues, also introduced a lot of labor costs into the management of this type of technology. With online backup, there is no maintenance, there is no management, there is no media, there's nothing to be taken off-site, there are no moving parts. It's simple software that just will run every day from every node that you've got it installed on. From a recovery standpoint, online backup's also got the benefit of allowing users to do their own recovery. So recovery no longer has to be a central IT function. It doesn't have to be 2 or 3 days turnaround to recover a particular file. And from a disaster recovery standpoint, if you've got a total environment crash, your data is immediately available with online backup. So you can log into a website, download your data in real time. And then we've covered, I think, the management, the cost benefits, and the margin. So with online backup, you've got a fundamentally better backup service at a much better price. And our goal is to help you convert backup from being a pain point for your customers and for you and your business, and turn it into both a sales center for you and a profit center. So flipping through and just talking very briefly about the industry overview. I know most people are interested in the technology, which is the next section. One of the most common questions we get is how much of an opportunity is there for resellers in this market? And so the numbers, I think, tell the story very well, which is that the overall backup industry, which is very well metriced and well understood, is roughly a $10 billion industry annually, and that's comprised of hardware, software, and services, and also across consumer, small business, and enterprise. Of that, experts tend to agree that online backup's poised to take 70 to 80% market share, so call it $7 billion at full saturation, whereas the market today is still under $1 billion. So summarizing it for you, the online backup market stands to get 6 or 7 times bigger than it is today. So there's a lot of growth ahead. Where we're at in the market is that we've got very rapid adoption by consumers and small businesses going on, and early stage adoption by enterprise and corporations. So the technology is past, the technology is now proven. It's gone through, I think, an inflection point and is now entering a stage of mass adoption. So it's a good time to get into the online backup business and have an online backup solution for your clients. I suspect most of the people on today's webinar have had one of their customers ask them about online backup, or at least discussed online backup with their customers. That's usually the most common impetus for VARs and resellers to get in touch with us, and you're going to see that more and more and more. So let's skip through now and actually turn to the SOS technology itself. Please feel free to ask as many questions as you like through this section. At a high level, the product is built around 4 key concepts. So SOS sets out to protect your data, help you access your data, help you share your data, and help you manage all of that data. We try and be as device agnostic as possible, so we can back up data from an iPad or from an iPhone, a BlackBerry, laptops, workstations, servers. Again, similarly from an access standpoint, you can access all that data from any device, whether that's a BlackBerry or a smartphone or Android or any device with internet access you can use to search and share and recover your data from. And then going around to the management topic, this is our management framework, which is really geared towards resellers like yourselves to not only help you manage machines that are being backed up, but manage entire corporate environments. So you can manage up to 5,000 PCs from one management console that are all running the SOS backup technology, which is a very powerful management tool. So flipping through and just talking about some of the key features of the technology, I'll just hit some of the highlights, although I'd encourage you to read through this information on our website or talk to some of our salespeople. But built into the product are a lot of features that most other backup companies have traditionally sold separately. So continuous data protection, for example, is built into the product, whereas when you look at, say, Backup Exec, you have to pay hundreds of dollars per seat in addition to your standard license to get their CDP module. Similarly, unlimited computers, most of our competitors charge on a per-seat basis, so you're constantly having to pay more and more and more for every computer that you add to the backup, whereas with SOS, you get an unlimited number of seats built into your subscription right out of the gate. Access on through a web portal we've talked about, and through mobile devices like your iPhone we've talked about. Integrated local backup. So for years we've always included 2 completely separate backup targets in the product, meaning that you can do a full local backup of your system, but then also back up a different data set to the cloud. And the reason we do that is there are limitations to online backup. Bandwidth is still a big constraint. So when you're backing up enormous data sets, online backup itself is not good enough, which is why we've always bundled local backup into the software, so that you can maintain a full backup set going to a local device, whether that's disk or a network location, as well as have your most important data being backed up to the cloud. Compression and transfer, so the software only extracts the block differences between files, so the daily payload that has to be sent to the cloud is very, very small and very, very fast. And that's important on larger networks, particularly where bandwidth is an issue. Enhanced security and privacy. We've got a private key encryption system so that for customers that want standard security, we can help them unlock their account if, for example, they lost their credentials. But with our ultra-safe security model, all data is encrypted with a private key that's not known to us, not known to you, not known to anybody except the customer. And that's a very important security feature for medical customers, business customers, any company subject to Sarbanes-Oxley. And we'll talk more about regulatory compliance later. But if you're selling into the larger end of the small business market, you're going to come across HIPAA compliance and SARBOX and PCI compliance issues. SOS is compliant under all of those regulatory frameworks. Timeline-based recovery system, so the system keeps snapshots of any given day and allows you to roll back your environment back to any point in time, which coupled with this feature below, unlimited versioning, becomes very powerful. So because you've got, as we saw on the previous screen, unlimited computers, and then you've got unlimited versioning, what it allows you to do is actually use the timeline to roll back your entire IT environment to any point in time. In my particular account, which goes back 6 years, I can, if you look at it now, there's I think 9 or 10 PCs that I'm backing up with it. But if you roll back to, say, 2008, you'll see 4 PCs, and if you go all the way back to 2006, there's just 1 PC. And that's a very powerful rollback ability. Most other backup systems would never give you 5 or 6 years worth of rollback capability. But we keep an